Hey everybody, this is my 55-gallon T Bar tank, and I just turned the lights on this morning, and I noticed when I did that I had some detritus worms swirling around the tank. Let's see if we can see one. There you go. See that little white squidgely little thing there floating around? You can see it sort of wiggling on its own. Kind of looks like it's wiggling on its own anyway. Well, it is wiggling on its own, and that is because it is a common detritus worm. And that gives you a pretty good idea of how much water circulation I've got through this tank. I move quite a bit of water through here. So these detritus worms, I used to have them really bad in this tank. I would come down in the morning and turn the light on and the glass would be covered with them. And the reason is I was way overfeeding the tank at the time. I don't know exactly where the detritus worms come from. In other words, I don't really know how they get in your tank. They seem to be like soil gnats. If you've got any houseplants, and you just water a houseplant a little too frequently and you keep the soil moist a little too long, a little too moist, suddenly you'll have gnats coming out of it. Like how they get in there, I don't know, but you'll just get soil gnats if you've got moist soil. And detritus worms are the same way. I swear if you took a sterile tank and just started overfeeding it for a while, you'll just start noticing you've got detritus worms in there. I have no idea how they get in there. But you can see I've got what would appear to be quite a few. But in comparison to some of the amounts I've seen, this isn't much at all. Before I literally, was talking back in the day when I was really, really heavily overfeeding this tank and it was way overstocked. I'd have hundreds of them just on the glass in the morning, not to mention the amount swirling around in the water current. And so I started, a little better husbandry. This was back when I was, real steep learning curve, just kind of getting started. Way over enthusiastic with my feeding. I was coming in here 4 or 5 times a day feeding the fish. And as I fed less and cleaned more and gravel vacked more and got different kind of gravel over time, I'm using this really good substrate. I'll put a link below to it. It's the Eco Complete. I really like it. I am going to be shooting a video talking specifically about that substrate in the very near future, so I probably will put that on my layman's lectures playlist, and I will do a lot more in-depth discussion about the substrate itself. But I do believe that the substrate itself has helped me have less problems with the detritus worms, and I think the reason we're seeing them again now is because we've got this T-bar in here, and you can see by the mountains of substrate that the T-bar goes around picking the substrate up and moving it and rearranging the tank and building it kind of basically the way he wants it. I really like the way he's built himself a little nest down here behind this piece of wood and kind of between the rocks and everything. It's a nice little house he's built. So that's where the detritus worms hide. You'd probably be surprised. A lot of people have these in their tank. They're very common. They're harmless. You can even think of them as part of your cleanup crew. That's what they do. They break down the detritus that builds up in your substrate. You got too much uneaten food, and even though fish waste is waste, it's still nutrient rich to some organisms. We know in a lot of cases poop is a food source for smaller animals down the food chain line, and fish poop certainly serves that purpose for these detritus worms, along with any uneaten food or any uncleaned bits of plant material that might get down into the substrate. All of this makes food for your detritus worms. But as I said, you can think of those detritus worms as part of the cleanup crew that's helping to break all of that stuff down. Of course, if you've got the detritus worms, that's a pretty good indication that you've got too much detritus, and you should either cut back on the feeding, do more frequent gravel vacs, or something to reduce the amount of detritus, and then you'll reduce the amount of detritus worms. If you do see them, if you do have them in your tank, don't panic, don't get upset. They're super common, and they're harmless. And what I'm hoping is now that they're up and about and they're floating around in the water a little bit, maybe we can actually get the guppies in there eating them. I'm actually watching this guppy here, and it has put a few in its mouth, but it just seems to be spitting them right back out. So I'm wondering if maybe the detritus worms aren't something that a lot of fish will eat. I know some fish will eat them, But this guppy in here just doesn't really seem to be that interested in it. It just keeps kind of putting them in its mouth and spitting them back out. But it is checking them all out, so who knows, maybe over time some of them will get eaten. At any rate, my battery is getting low here. I just wanted to shoot that little video updating on the detritus worms. Since I saw them out and about floating around, I figured it'd be a good time to talk about them while we could get them on video as we discussed them. So thanks again for watching. Don't forget to check out my Patreon page. I do a lot of behind the scenes kind of stuff over there. So in addition to getting all of my YouTube videos a couple of days in advance, you will also get some exclusive stuff over there that doesn't get shown here on my YouTube channel, and it's worth going over there and checking it out. If you enjoy my YouTube videos, you'll probably enjoy the stuff you see over there on my Patreon page. Anyway, so once again, thanks for watching. I would ask you to please subscribe so you don't miss anything coming up here on my YouTube channel. I do have some projects I'm going to be releasing soon, and then of course this one is my T-Bar tank. So thanks again for watching. See you real soon in the next one.